Hi,
Hello,
I'm Julian.
and I am Tom.
We are Team Binge. We are here to talk about Pluribus. This is Season 1, Episode 6. This one was called HDP, which sounds like some sort of weird computer code thing. So I'm going to have to look at that every time so I don't mess
That's what I
it
take in
up.
all my protein shakes.
Right, yeah. Human derivative protein something.
Spoiler
along those
alert.
lines. Yeah. Tom, here's what I enjoy about this show.
Uh-huh.
They don't mess around. You know, it's like, hey, we left you on a cliffhanger. You were wondering if it was bodies. They're like, guess what? The first 2 minutes of the next episode, we're going to let you know it's bodies. And then I also appreciate that the hive mind is also like, Carol, if you would have just asked us, we would have told you. Like, you know, and they send John Cena. I don't know. I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed that they didn't make me wait. They were just like, hey, here's what it is. We're going to rip off the Band-Aid, viewers. And you know what? It's not that big of a deal when we explain it to you. And you're like, would eating humans, would I be okay with it? I think I would. Certainly drinking them, you know?
Right? Yeah, it is definitely a moral conundrum. But I feel I'm
Not
with
really.
you.
Not really. I'm good with it. I'm past the drum. I'm past the canon and the drum, Tom.
I love it. But yeah, I'm glad they answered it quickly. Like, because this episode released a little bit later than normal, it's not like on the 7-day weekly release. It was a couple days delayed due to Thanksgiving. I like that they kind of gave us it right away. I thought there was some cool like direction style where we get almost like a Blair Witch style. She takes the camera into the warehouse, kind of makes us feel like we're really in there with her. It was kind of cool. And then again, we get to bring back our boy Kumba for better or for worse.
Loved him so much. Guy's living the best life. If you're into that sort of thing, he's living the best life. Obviously, as a moral individual who cares about other people and monogamy, I, would never, unless, I got written permission. But anyways, that's a different podcast.
Technically, they're all your wife.
That's fair. That's fair. Which, anyways, we don't need to get into it. I enjoyed this episode. I did, coming off of the last episode of like, is it bodies? It was like, this is all we talked about at Thanksgiving dinner. It was like, hey, while you're eating that turkey leg, I bet, it's definitely bodies. And they're like, we don't watch the show. And I was like, but it's bodies, definitely, right, Gam Gam? And Gam Gam was like, yes, it's bodies. And I was like, cool.
She knows.
Yeah. I enjoy Vegas. Love Vegas. I love us getting to go to Vegas. But I want to go back to something you said earlier, Tom. So you have an issue with them drinking humans?
I mean, the way John Cena put it, it made it seem like it was fine and dandy. But I mean, I would attest that it's kind of gross and probably shouldn't do it. But these people aren't really people anymore, I would argue.
Sure. So you're in the Andes Mountain. Your plane has crashed. All right. The only other food you have is the bodies of the other passengers, which, by the way, were killed in the crash. Tom, you didn't have to beat them to death with a thigh bone or something. Would you? I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but would you eat a person in that situation?
Yeah. I think I would eat a person without hesitation.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
the correct
a
answer is
little
no.
hesitation.
The correct answer, you just die. I tricked you, Tom. A little gotcha moment from Team Binge.
No, that's why I love how they did it, where it's so off-putting, and Carol's reaction is obviously justified when she sees it all because it is horrific. But then when John Cena, which is the greatest cameo ever, makes the point about like, hey, we're just trying to survive. We can't, because of whatever, they can't hurt anything. Like, it kind of makes sense, and you can understand it because it's just survival. So it was beautifully done.
I did not understand how they did not make the joke where Kumba was like, oh, who's talking on the TV? Because you can't see him because he's John Cena. Anyways,
yeah.
That's a little wrestling joke for those of you from a guy that's never watched wrestling a moment in his life. I love that we get to meet up with Kumba again. I love how we meet up with him. They do like a Casino Royale spoof, and you do start to think like, oh, he made all of these people like play out this fantasy with him. And obviously he's doing that with his harem, which is interesting. But I started to wonder, like, what would I do? Would I just, like, get all of the members of Arrested Development over to my house, and I would just, like, I would be Gob Bluth, like, in all of them, and I'd get to act like Will Arnett? Like, what would I do if I had the ability to have all these people be background actors in my life? And I loved what Kumba did. I really enjoyed it.
It was very comical, to say the least. Like, we obviously didn't leave him at a great state, and he felt like kind of a sleazebag, and he still, I would argue, is. But I like the dichotomy.
The guy with the eye patch, Tom. The guy with the eye patch is definitely a sleazebag.
Listen, the guy with the eye patch was apparently credited as Blowfinger, a combination of Blowfield and Goldfinger. So that's a great little nod to Bond right there. But yeah, the difference between how Kumba is reacting to this scenario and how Carol is, it is very, very entertaining to watch.
Sure. And the reveal at the end, like, Kumba has got some insight into what's going on that allows him to kind of relax in a way that it's going to be interesting. Like, without the looming threat of what we discovered at the end of the episode of they can't change you without your permission, I wonder where Carol's going to go with this. Like, knowing that there's not this cloud of, I've only got so much time before I join the Hive. And so I thought that was a really interesting pivot at the end of this episode, which we'll, of course, dive into.
Yeah, agreed.
But
I got some thoughts on that, by the way.
Okay.
I feel like the whole stem cell bit, and once we get to that, there's some theory crafting out there about potential shenanigans going on there. So we'll get to it.
We don't have to dwell on Kumba's lifestyle, but I do just want to say that I'd love to know who the bubble bath guy on set was, how you made all the bubbles stay in place so that this show remained like PG-13. I thought was a real strong effort by... Is there like a Hollywood bubble guy? They're like, oh, he's the best bubble guy. Like, if you want bubbles to like stay in place, like, he was the guy in Home Alone that made it stay on Macaulay Culkin while he's... I think that's a scene from Home Alone. Now it sounds weird because I'm talking about a bubble bath. But anyways, save me, Tom.
I don't know. The weirdity that American audiences, I guess, just in general have to like sexuality, where you'll show a severed head in the previous scene, but you can't show a nipple in the next scene. It's baffling to me.
Well, for instance, that severed head was really well shrink wrapped, so you could kind of convince yourself it wasn't. Now,
Okay.
You know, these nipples were not shrink wrapped; they were bubbled over. Tom.
Yeah.
I guess you could have used bubble wrap, and then, anyways, let's move on.
Technically, they were bubble wrapped.
They were bubble wrapped. Yeah. All right. Did we move past the severed head too quickly? I just, that reveal I thought was not surprising, but quite funny, where she's like, and what is this? And you're like, oh, that's a severed head.
Yeah, it's like you first see like all the body parts that you kind of assume are body parts, but not until she shows the head is it really like that horrifying. It just like the way it was shrink wrapped in the white, and you can kind of make out. It almost seemed like the jaw was like open and it was trying to scream at you. It was terrifying.
Yeah. We did skip over the fact that she's like through that door as a meat grinder and vats, which I think meat grinder and vats would be a pretty good podcast. I don't know what it would be about. Probably bubble guys in Hollywood and cannibalism, but I did appreciate that.
Yeah, so we definitely got the soylent green of it all that we thought from the previous episode. Or is it soylent yellow or brown? I think we did. I did ask our audience whether it was a yellow or a brown liquid, and I think the majority agreed with me that it was more yellow, or call it amber in color if we want to find a solution or a compromise.
Interesting. I don't know what color it is. It just looked delicious, that's all. Something I would definitely, after running a race, I definitely want that in a styrofoam cup that I could, maybe dump all over my face. That actually sounds terrible. Carol arriving in Vegas, very funny. It's just like completely empty, and then the sign is like, "Welcome, Carol." That was awesome.
Well, it took me a second to remember like that she knew where to go in Vegas, because I remember he said he was going to Vegas, but then he did specifically say he wanted to stay in like the room that Elvis stayed in, like famously in the Westgate, I guess, for a handful of years. So she knew exactly where to go, but then to get it on the sign of saying "Welcome, Carol," And like a little bit later, when the Marquis talking to her, it's lovely.
Right. Well, there's only one road in Vegas, right? There's just that one main road. So as long as you drive up and down that, eventually you're going to run into Kumba, I would think. I assumed he was going to be standing in the road with like a sign that says, "Hey, Carol." But the show's better at this than I am, so they used the big sign. All right. Kumba seems to be like already in the know and unaffected by this news. Has he just had more time to process it, or is Kumba just living his life in such a way that he doesn't really care?
I think it's like a little bit of both, because he had said like he found out this news like a week prior, and even as Carol like goes into this room and is like getting ready to drop this bombshell, you're like, oh, he definitely knows about it, like because Carol's like almost talking it up too much and like, oh, you better sit down. It's like, oh yeah, Kumba knows, and when he comes out and says it, I thought it was great.
Right. And he's like, it's unsettling, like, but he says it in a way of someone who is very settled, you know?
Yeah.
And so, Tom, if there was a celebrity on camera that was announcing to you that the world was slowly being consumed by itself, which, I mean, it is, if you want to get real deep, you know? Peace, man. Peace and love. But what celebrity would you like to be on the screen? You can't pick John Cena, because I think John Cena is a very good choice, and I loved... I guess why John Cena would be my first question, and then Tom, who your celebrity would... I'll take my question in either order, by the way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, John Cena is the peacemaker, right? And that's what he's trying to do, is bring peace to Carol. So I think it fits. I feel like your answer would be Ken Burns. I know you love listening to that man talk. I feel like I'll just keep in the wrestling vein. I'll go with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I'll have him deliver the news. It's got to be a muscular man. That's what I need. Okay.
Well, first off, the voice of Ken Burns documentaries is Peter Coyote, Tom. So if Peter Coyote at 80 years old got on and started explaining it to me while motionless pictures are panned over, I would be okay with it.
Okay, sorry.
But we find...
Not a burnt head.
You should be. Everyone should be. He teaches us about America. All right. So we find out inside the milk cartons, human-derived protein, which not as delicious as it sounds. They explain.
You haven't tried it, don't you? Don't you shame that. You don't know. Don't yuck somebody's yum, Bar.
I'm oscillating is the word, not vacillating. Vacillating is something you put on a burn. I'm going back and forth between being pro-drinking humans and anti-drinking humans.
It's a fine line.
But I appreciate they're like, listen, we not only can't hurt you, we can't hurt anything. We can't pluck an apple. We can't harvest wheat. And this is an interesting, like, thought experiment, because later on Carol's like, they're doing this to themselves, you know, they should be all right with plucking an apple. So I'm interested in this hive mind virus, like its motivation to not hurt things, and where ultimately it leads them to cannibalism. But once again, when it's explained to you by John Cena, you're kind of like, okay, all right, I get it. Yeah.
I like what Cena's even explaining it. He's like, depending on your body size, a body size like mine needs 8 every 24 hours. It was great.
Yeah.
So he gets extra.
So I guess the timeline here is, without modern farming techniques or the corporations that keep us alive on those mega farms, we will die out in 10 years, right? So that's our timeline,
Yes.
7 billion people. But as people die and we eat the people, isn't that 10 years going to be pushed out? You know, isn't that last person just going to have like a feast of all those body parts? You know what I mean, Tom?
Well, it's again, interesting thought experiment. Like the idea that this like virus hive mind cannot even harvest like grain, like it goes all the way down to plants and everything else, is quite fascinating. And I mean, I don't know, maybe it was actually 7 years, but because of the people dying, they get an extra 3 that they continue to harvest. But if all these people are truly like one, then why do you even need multiple people, right? Like the idea of them being a bunch of people is not a good use of resources. And if nothing else, this hive mind is all about efficiency. So I mean, I would imagine their end goal would be to dwindle the population.
Tom, are you advocating like mass genocide? What did you just do there? Did you just talk yourself into like the human race should go away? What just happened?
I am not a part of the hive mind. I'm just saying.
What did you just do? We have value, Tom. Like as humans, we have value. What is happening?
Carol seems to agree that we have value, and I'm not disagreeing that we have value, but I'm saying from the sake of this hive mind, like if they saying they can't kill or hurt an individual, like I get that they're not going to then kill each other, but at the end of the day, if their like survival as we'll call it a virus, consists of needing to have sustenance, the more people you have, the more sustenance you need to consume. I'm just saying in general, like the idea of like the hive mind, yes, it's X amount of billion people, but it only needs to be one because they all have the exact same shared experiences and thoughts and skills.
I just want to go on record saying I think humans have value, and I'm not advocating for everyone to die off just so one person. So Tom and I are split on this. If you're keeping score, I didn't think we'd get this deep on this silly show. No, I see what you're saying, and it is kind of an interesting, like, what is their ultimate goal, which we don't, other than to avoid having confrontations with Carol, we don't know what the goal of these 7 billion people all located. I loved the bit where Kumba was like, oh yeah, John Cena and I were hanging out, and I was like, oh, that's funny. He would be the guy that was like, hey, can John Cena come by and just like be my friend?
Like his wrestling coach, yeah.
Right. Oh, that's right. He was teaching him wrestling moves. Oh, that would be so fun. Like, who would you like to think you'd be like, I'll get someone from Masterclass to come over and like teach me how to paint. But in reality, you'll be like, hey, can I have the guy that played, I don't know, the Red Power Ranger come over and teach me karate? Like, and they'd be like, well, he's definitely dead because that show's from 30 years ago. But maybe he's still alive. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other drop during this conversation, which I think is important, is that despite all that's happening, Carol's feelings are still going to be hurt by the 12 people that are not a part of the hive mind, excluding her from their Tuesday and Friday Zoom meeting, which I thought was interesting. Like, no matter how far we go as humans, we can still hurt each other's feelings. And maybe that plays into your thing, Tom, where you want everyone to die, which I think is interesting.
I mean, I felt so bad for Carol in this moment, right? Like, we know she had not the greatest of first impressions with this group.
Sure.
But to find out that she's part of this, like, this wildly shared experience these 12 people are having, they're choosing through democracy, they voted to not include her in the conversations. Like, it's awful, and I feel so bad for Carol. Even if, again, I know like the internet thinks Carol's a terrible person and not a great character, like, regardless of everything, I feel like this is terrible and sad.
Right. The actor that plays Goomba does such a good job in all of this, like, kind of like kid gloving Carol into, listen, like, we voted, it wasn't unanimous, but we didn't want to include you. I'm sorry. Like, oh yeah, they eat humans. It's unsettling, but I'm cool with it. I don't know. I enjoyed all these conversations that he had with her. All of this to, lead with Carol, also an incredible actress, being like, I need to go to the... Tom, the artistry, the portraits of Kumba throughout his, like, Las Vegas hotel room, just incredible. Carol being like, I'm going to go be sad in the bathroom, and having to stare at a giant picture of him was just A+ TV making. I loved it.
It's great. And it's everywhere. I think even on the outside of the Westgate like hotel, there's like him doing the Elvis pose, and then it says like in French, like his native language, the king. It's so good.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I only got the ones inside. That's so great. I mean, my spirit animal, I think, might be Kumba, Tom. That's how I feel. But we do feel bad for Carol, like you said. I don't want to laugh about her pain. And Koopa calls someone, and he's like, he feels bad for her as well. And he's like, she's just so lonely, which leads to a Carol angry champagne nap on the couch. Is he talking, like, is he developing emotional, I don't know, connections with his harem? Was he calling Zojia? Who was he calling in that moment?
Yeah, I don't know, because he even ends the conversation, but like something about like I still love you or love them or something like in the plural sense of the hive mind. But I don't know if when he came to that like event on Air Force One, he didn't have like the same like individual handler that Carol did in Zojia. Like he seemed to have like an affinity with Zojia, like when he did meet her, but we know she didn't follow him. So
Right.
I don't know who he's talking to, and maybe it's just to try to way for the audience to have a little bit of sympathy for Kumba and know that he needs to like be able to say it out loud to somebody that he has sympathy for her, because there's no other way to get it in his character. But yeah, I don't
He's
know.
not calling the other 11 that, he's not calling that
think
group,
so.
right?
Yeah,
I don't think they're the ones that care. Unless he called into the Zoom and he's like, hey guys, we should reconsider. Carol's real. Well, right now she's napping, but when she was awake, she was angry and sad. And they were like, nope.
What even happens at breakfast here, right? Yeah, where they're like sitting there and Carol like says like, oh, okay, I'll go find a suite and then we'll get together and we'll talk. Like that like look from Kumba just said so much, where he was just like, oh, this is awkward. I don't want you to stay.
Well,
and then Carol reading the room and like saying as much like, oh, I'm just kidding. Like, oh, it is hurtful. And I felt so bad for Carol again.
I did feel bad. The panicked look on Kumba's face of like, oh, my harem won't come back if you're still around. And he was just like eating that weird avocado toast concoction that he borrowed from Carol. He was just thinking about all those well-placed bubbles. And he's like, I'm never going to see those well-placed bubbles if she sticks around. And once again, just like A+ acting on all sides. I appreciate what they were doing here.
I'll bring this up here. I was going to save it at the end as like a potential theory crafting, but you bring up the idea of, yes, if she stays, then the hive mind is not going to come back because they, quote unquote, need their space from Carol. There was a theory going around the internet that like Zojia might have been like almost partially immune just based off of some of her reactions that we had seen from her as a character, where like when she first shows up and she goes and like takes the shower after traveling from wherever she was, she like closes the curtain. And it's like, well, why would you close the curtain if you're part of the hive mind? Like you just wouldn't care. There was also that look back she gives to Carol like on Air Force One right before she leaves. Like, again, if she's part of the hive mind, she wouldn't have like second thoughts about this. Why would she be looking back? And I think one of the most interesting ideas is maybe what Carol had done to Zojia and like yelled at her and gave her that like, was it the seizure, or I can't remember what they called it, but that last confrontation, when Carol goes and visit her, the nurse says that she's going to be fine, which I think is very interesting verbiage, right? Because the hive always refers to themselves as we, like we are going to be fine. When she specifically calls out she's going to be fine, maybe Carol did something to actually turn Zojia and have her be, have free will again. And maybe that's why all this hive mind left, because they're like, oh no, Carol figured out something to be able to turn us and we can't be close to her anymore. So I don't know if there's much to that, but I saw that theory and I thought it was interesting and is potentially the reason why the hive is staying away from her.
So you think it's less of a passive-aggressive avoidance or like silent treatment. You think it's literally the hive mind trying to protect themselves from Carol's anger is the cure to the hive-mindedness?
Possibly. That's just kind of what's going around. But it's like, again, the hive mind concept is just so interesting. Like, why do they go to such great lengths to appease Kumba? Like, I just don't. It doesn't really make sense. Like, I get that they can't harm anything.
They want him to be happy.
Yeah, but like at what cost? Like of their own, like they're having to like expend all these resources just to make this one person happy. It doesn't seem to make sense for all of that effort that's going into it.
Sure. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to understand this because you're a big fan of mass genocide. But, Tom, when you love someone, you expend energy in order to make them happy. It's just something we humans do, but you are a robot. I get what you're saying. I guess what I do want to talk about is this moment with Kumba and Carol at breakfast where he copies what she's doing. Is this just like him being someone who's trying to discover new pleasures, or like that's just who he is? Or like, because obviously with a hive mind, like people doing all the same things or working in concert, like why does he in this moment be like, oh, she's doing that, I'm gonna do what she's doing? Was the show, because the show like clocked it, like they made a point of it. Was there anything deeper than it's just, Kumba copying her breakfast order?
I don't know. It was weird, and I feel like there's a lot to Kumba that we still don't really know. And like, is he really telling the truth with everything that he's saying? Like, this could be an interesting thing that maybe we go back to, and he has like hive mind type tendencies, and he sees her doing something that he wouldn't normally do, and he's like just like a curious like alien foreigner looking at like, oh, this is interesting. I never thought about this, and like his brain is freaking out. Like, I don't know. I think there's some interesting stuff that could potentially happen with Kumba as a character.
Sure. Once again, I'm fascinated when these two are on screen. We end with Carol, him walking her out, and her being like, making one last like desperate plea of, hey, help me turn him back. Like, obviously you don't want them to starve. Because Kumba brings up like, oh, we as a group are trying to figure out how to help them, like robotic farming, like something that they don't have to like harvest or hurt things. They just use the robots to do it, which I don't think solves the problem. I love that she's like, I'm a writer. I can come up with much better things than, Purple Seas and Pirates. But all of this like leads to her like mentioning to him, hey, like we're all just waiting for them to turn us. And then him saying, well, they can't. They just found out yesterday that it takes stem cells and they have to have your consent in order to do that, which I thought all this was brilliant. Her having to listen to the recording 2 more times, getting answers from the billboard. I enjoyed all of this. And this does, as I mentioned, kind of lift that ominous timeline of eventually she's going to lose her free will, and it changes things. So I'm interested to see where they take that.
Yeah, because they talk about like to be able to extract these stem cells is such a painful process that they would have to give consent. But I think a very interesting point here is to be able to get stem cells. Like, yes, they would have to do this, but we have clocked in a previous episode where Carol said that she has like her eggs frozen in a previous conversation that she had with Helen. And I think the argument can be made that they don't need Carol's consent to be able to get her stem cells. They potentially already have it in her frozen eggs.
Huh. Okay. So that is a workaround in order to turn Carol.
It's potential. Like I said, it was a weird thing for them to clock in the previous episode that say she had her eggs frozen. And now that they're saying it's like stem cell related, I would imagine something could come from this. I feel like what could be kind of interesting is like you assume Carol's going to be the main protagonist throughout the entire series of the show, but maybe at a certain point, like she does get turned and like Kumba or maybe this new, I think it's Manusos, like maybe his character kind of becomes the main, the main person. And then they're dealing with Carol as a changed or hive mind person. Could be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know. Do we know if there's multiple seasons of this? Or are we a 1 season and done?
I think before it even got released on Apple, it was at least 2 seasons. But the way I think Vince works, like you would probably have a greater outline of what he wants to do, kind of like you had with Breaking Bad, where I think he knew he wanted 5 seasons. So I don't know if that's been announced yet, but I'd imagine he's got a grander plan than just 2 seasons.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I hope they don't all... Well, I know you're against me in this, but I hope they don't all starve to death before we get to season 5, Carol, she verifies that she does not consent. Kumba, I like how Kumba put it. He's like, at this point, I politely declined, or however he says it.
Puts his hands together.
Yeah, he's like, thank you, but no, I like my life. This leads to his parting to her is like, hey... Just so you know, the world wants you back, and they want to like interact with you. They're just looking for a little bit of a change of heart. So I would think, does that not fly in the face of their avoiding her because she can physically change them? Like he's kind of asking, hey, if you will be nicer to them, they'll show back up into your life, and you can also have a bubble-filled harem.
I mean, I think so. Like, because if she does have a change of heart and doesn't feel like she can be turned, then they wouldn't have any like risk. But like the risk that the hive mind has of potentially being turned by her, if that's truly what's happened, I don't know if that is if she continues to like poke and prod and try to figure out what this reversal process truly is. So if they feel like she's not going to do that, maybe they'll come back in her life.
No one gives the throwaway F-em like Carol. This was great.
That was great.
Yeah.
Rhea Seehorn delivered this brilliantly.
I love that she's sticking with the cop car, and he's got a different Ferrari for each day as well. That was...
It's a Lamborghini, but it's okay.
Oh, forgive me. I definitely would have some sort of giant diesel truck just to let him know that I wasn't worried about the environment. You know, that's what I'd be doing. Yeah. Uh-huh. All right. We then backtrack in days to like day 9, I think is what they read. And we go back to Paraguay.
I love the continued use of the clock where it starts at 12 days and then allows us to kind of do a little bit of a flashback where it literally backtracks to day 9, so 3 days prior. And we need, excuse me, I don't know if they've actually said the gentleman's name, but I believe his name is Manusos. So that's our new character from Paraguay.
All right, I'm just going to call him my friend from Paraguay because it will be disrespectful for me to try to pronounce his name. He's the one that I guess he's been through every frequency on the dial, and he decides like, hey, we're done. The only one he has a question mark on is the 86130 frequency, which, gotta be honest, Tom, I did no research. I'm sure it's like a smart answer to some reason why that one is giving him a dial tone.
I watched a quick little video that, like, we first thought he was going through these frequencies, he's like trying to listen out for somebody calling to him. But I think these frequencies from a video I saw on the internet, so take it for what it's worth, these are like maritime frequencies and not necessarily ones that you would get on like CB radios or trying to find distress calls. So it's interesting that he also stays on this one frequency that seemed to have some sort of like tone or melody, which is kind of similar to what the show starts with, right? Where they find some sort of interstellar tone or melody that they put together to then sequence this virus. So I don't really know what's kind of going on. And I think there's still a lot of questions where even at the end of this, like, is this character trying to now go find Carol? Certainly he kept his address. That is maybe what's implied. Or is he going to try to do something more with this frequency and dig a little bit deeper? I think there's still a lot of questions to be asked.
Sure. My understanding of this journey that he embarks on in this episode is that he's going to meet up with Carol because he steals her address. He listens to her wonderful tape, which she has an effect on him. I know that she was maybe a poor saleswoman to the others, but Mr. Paraguay is like, this lady's just as angry as I am. I would like to join her in this anger. I
was just impressed that he had the VCR at the ready. I mean, at first I was like, there's no way a guy's got a VCR at the ready, but I'm sure the hive mind knew he did. That's why they presented it as a VHS. That's
fair. I think most security tapes at storage container facilities are still VHS, Tom.
Okay.
But, he, leaves his cage. I love the idea that he's in a zombie movie, like where he has to like get a machete and like gather his own food and like gather cash, where if he would just reach out to the hive mind and be like, hey, I want to go visit Carol, they'd just be like, here's an airplane. Like, would you like a meal with that? Which is not going to be human. But I appreciated this guy is like choosing by not interacting with them or not, taking anything they provide to live in a different world than, say, Kumba is. He's taking the exact opposite approach.
Yeah, he's like, any questions, he is just completely isolating himself. So that's why when he gets this message from Carol that he knows is somebody that's not under this spell, I guess, because again, he doesn't know what's going on, it causes him to kind of like, okay, I've got to get out of here. I've got to try to do something, which I love.
I don't know many meals that stay good in the refrigerator for 9 days, Tom. I was a little bit worried about this. He like opens the container. He does sniff it. I was like, I don't think that's like going to give you a clear, definitive that hasn't gone bad.
My wife said the exact same thing. Better than dog food.
Yeah, there we go.
That was my point. Yeah.
Oh man,
I do love when he goes to finally get to his car and it was like under that sheet. I'm like, oh, is this guy Batman? Is this the Batmobile? That would have been dope.
It is a super cool car. I like the fact that we find out that the like person that they sent to him in order to provide food is his mom. And so like we know the hive mind chooses someone that they feel you will best take like the news from. And he is like, "You're not my mom. Like, I don't care. I'm leaving."
She was an unpleasant person. And maybe this is what like creeps him out about everything, because like the body of his mom clearly is not his mom, not treating him like his mom actually did, just freaked him the heck out. And it's funny too, because it kind of like parallels what Carol yelled at him, because I think he called something about his mom being not a good person as well in Paraguayanese. So it was funny to hear it repeated again straight from Manusos here.
Yeah. So are we thinking the next episode is going to be purely his episode?
That'd be interesting if it was. I'd be here for it.
It's just a sweet road tripping episode where he's, eating 10-day-old food from Ziploc containers and driving to, I don't even know what that route is, Tom, from Paraguay to the U.S.
The very first thing I did, I'm like, okay, he took Carol's address. Can you drive from Paraguay to the U.S.? So I searched it, ended up going down a YouTube rabbit hole and watching like a 10-minute video talking about like the history of the Pan-American Highway, which stretches all the way from Alaska to Argentina. But you cannot actually drive the entire distance because there's a spot called the Darien Gap, which is just this huge patch of jungle, kind of on it's in Panama, but it's on the Panama-Colombia border. That is essentially just no way you can really build roads through it. Super thick jungle, swamplands. There's apparently like smugglers and drug dealers. Migrants try to go through there to be able to kind of escape some of the terribleness going on in South America. So, and then like to be able to build a road, there's environmental concerns. Like it was very, very interesting. But all this to say, I don't think he's going to be able to make the drive the entire way.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Well, if I hope you didn't spoil anything for next episode, where we're going to learn all about this highway and its 100-mile gap. I wonder if the hive mind knows he's trying to drive to Carol. Are they working on that 100-mile gap right now to pour concrete and build a highway? No, I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed the idea of she does not now have a clock hanging over her. Although you brought up an interesting point that maybe she does, but
she doesn't know it.
Right,
yeah.
She doesn't know it. So like when Carol is not in distress or doesn't feel like they're coming for her, how is Carol going to spend her day? And then I'm also interested to find out when our friend from Paraguay meets up with her, what that leads to. So enjoying it. Tom, any last thoughts before we sign off?
Listen, I'm just happy we didn't end this episode with Joja dying again.
Sure. Well, we're not familiar. We don't know. She might have gotten grenaded again. Or, I don't know, someone syringed her. But yeah, I'm glad she's out there just drinking humans and living her best life. For those of you that are still listening to us, if you've got thoughts, something we missed, or a theory, we love theories, you can reach us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. Tom handles the socials. If you have the time and would like to, please leave us a nice review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's always helpful and we appreciate it. Tom, what did I forget?
I can't. I'd be remiss not to read one of the recent podcast reviews that we got. Now, granted, I said I would only read reviews on Apple Podcasts that were 5 stars, and I'm not encouraging you to give us less than 5 stars, but this 3-star review is pretty great. Subject was not nearly. The comment was as funny as they think they are. So,
incredible.
Kudos to Cook. So, yeah, thanks again for that bummer review. But if you do like what we're doing, please leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate it. It helps grow the show. But follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, all the fun ones. Let us know what you think. Like I said, this has been a very fun show. I think they are giving us a lot to kind of theory craft off of. So yeah, let us know what your theories are. And it's a holiday season. We don't have a lot of merch, but if you want to buy some merch and support the show, go check out TeePublic and search Team Binge. You can find some shirts, some coffee mugs, and some fun stuff on there too.
Wonderful. Tom, for Team Binge, I have been Julian.
And Julian, I have been Tom. Till next week, everybody.